Dog Works Radio is sponsored by Alaska Dog Works. Check out their website at alaskadogworks.com.
Hello and welcome, everybody. This is Robert Forto from Dog Works Radio. On this episode of the Sibe Vibe, Dorothy Wills Raftery talks to Margit Maxwell. Here we go.
From two beautifully scenic and historic locations, the Hudson Valley, New York, and Willow, Alaska, this is the Sibe Vibe, brought to you by Dog Works Radio. Your hosts are author, journalist, and photographer, the Five Sibes mom, Dorothy Wills Raftery, and Dog Works Radio executive producer, canine behaviorist, trainer, and lead musher of Team Maneke, Robert Forto. The Sibe Vibe is all about the magnificent breed of the Siberian Husky. From training to grooming, and for those who show and breed, from parenting to playing and rescuing Huskies in need, whether mushing over snow-covered trails or lounging on tropical shores, even for Hollywood Sibes on the big silver screen, and so very much more. If it's about a Siberian Husky, we'll chat about it here.
Hello and welcome, everybody. This is Robert Forto, and you're listening to the Sibe Vibe here on Dog Works Radio, and I am joined by our co-host calling in from New York. Her name is Dorothy Wills Raftery. Dorothy, how is it going?
It's going really good, Robert. How about by you? I know you just did a great expedition, and we'll have to talk about that at length in the future, but how'd that go?
It went excellent. The weather was beautiful. It is definitely a great winter up here in Alaska.
That's terrific. We're welcoming in spring here, but we did have a big blizzard that left us with 2 feet, so the Huskies had a little bit of fun before the spring comes. Now, Robert, you know, today's March 26th, also known as Purple Day for Epilepsy, and you know that's a really big day for me here at the Five Sibes. And according to purpleday.org, Purple Day was founded in 2008 by 9-year-old Cassidy Megan of Nova Scotia, Canada, with the help of the Epilepsy Association of Nova Scotia. Cassie chose the color purple after the international color for epilepsy, which is lavender. Cassie created the idea of Purple Day in 2008, motivated by her own struggles with epilepsy. And her goal is to set people, to get people out there talking about epilepsy in an effort to dispel myths and inform those with seizures that they are not alone. The Epilepsy Association of Nova Scotia came on board in 2008 to help develop Cassie's idea, which is now known worldwide as Purple Day. Through my Five Sibes Live Gibbstrong Canine Epilepsy Awareness Campaign, named after my Epi-dog, a woolly Siberian Husky named Gibson, who was diagnosed shortly after his 3rd birthday, I was inspired to share Gibson's journey in order to help educate others about dogs living with canine epilepsy. I became an official Purple Day ambassador in 2012, and while Gibson is no longer physically with me, and as many of our readers and listeners know, he passed in December 2015 from hemangiosarcoma and not epilepsy, his strength and zest for life continues to inspire me and to help others to know that dogs can and do live happy lives with canine epilepsy. Please be sure to pop over to my Five Sibes blog today at fivesibes.blogspot.com to see how you can join in our 3rd annual Five Sibes Live Gibbstrong Canine Epilepsy Awareness blog hop and media share. And you can show the world your purple in support of epilepsy in both humans and canines, and also horses, cats, and bunnies as well. And yes, they too can be epileptic. Then be sure to check out our Purple Day for Epilepsy 2017 Facebook event page for shared photos from around the world and lots of canine epilepsy information, including stuff from today's show. Both of these events are co-hosted by 2 other fab bloggers and canine epilepsy advocates, Kimberly Matcham and Rollo of Confessions of a Rescue Mom blog, and Jean-Ann Barnaby and Olivia of Naughty Toys for Good Dogs. So come check us out and join us in showing off your purple in support. Today, Robert, and for our listeners, we're welcoming back dog trainer and canine behavior specialist Margit Maxwell, who heads up the Divine Dog Project. And, Robert, you'll probably remember Margit was formerly known as the Snow Dog Guru, but she left there to continue her educational work, sharing her training and informational articles at the Divine Dog Project. Margit specializes in the training of Siberian Huskies and Malamutes, and 2 of her Siberian Huskies over the past 35 years, Misty and Jet, were Epi-dogs. Jet was one of the featured Epi-dogs in my book that's available through ArcticHousePublishing.com and Amazon, titled Epic Dog Tales, Heartfelt Stories About Amazing Dogs Living and Loving Life with Canine Epilepsy. Margit credits her Jet with setting her on the path to do the research to discover the zinc deficiency information that we're going to be talking about on today's show. It was because she was looking for answers to why Jet was having seizures and what could she do to help him that she says she was able to connect the dots about zinc playing such an important role for Huskies and Malamutes. Margit resides in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, with her herd of 2 Siberian Huskies, Kaya and Angel, and an Alaskan Malamute, Skylar, as well as 2 rescue cats, Bailey and Luna. Today, as part of our special Purple Day for Epilepsy episode, Margit will be talking to us about the important link between zinc deficiency and seizures in dogs. Margit, welcome back to the Sibe Vibe.
Hello, Dorothy, and hello, Robert. Thank you for having me back on your show.
Now, Margit, we have so much to talk about in a very short amount of time, so I'm going to jump right in here. You've written about how a zinc deficiency can be a trigger for seizures in dogs, and that many times it is something that is overlooked. Can you tell us briefly about the important role zinc plays in the health of a dog and how a deficiency can possibly trigger seizures?
Yes. In my research, I found that zinc is one of the most used minerals in the body, and it's needed to be able to complete a host of body processes. And since zinc cannot be stored in the body, it's got to be front-loaded every single day. So when there isn't enough available zinc in the body to complete all the body processes necessary, some processes go without. The very end of the line in the body processes where zinc is used, it has to be present for taurine to be able to be taken up in the brain, and this acts as a neurotransmitter smoother over. And when this isn't present, then synapses can fire erratically, and that is, in essence, what an epileptic seizure is.
Now, is this something that affects all dogs, or is it more common with Siberian Huskies and Malamutes?
Interestingly enough, we often hear that Huskies are prone to having seizures, even though it's not technically a genetically influenced affliction. Other dogs can have it, epilepsy present in their lines too, and it does run in dog lines. Some of the other dogs that have problems with it is most of the northern breeds actually have a prevalence of having epilepsy present in their lines, but also the very large dogs like giant breed dogs like St. Bernards, even collies, golden retrievers, Labradors, standard poodles, Bichlas, Irish setters, Belgian Tervuurens, German Shepherds, Cocker Spaniels, and even Beagles have a prevalence of having epilepsy run in their lines.
And also, all breeds across the board can possibly be subjected to seizures as well. And I know that'll be a topic for another day, but that can be caused by a myriad of triggers, right, Margit?
Absolutely. There were a team of researchers that were looking for the one gene responsible for epilepsy in dogs, and they accidentally found in 2015 in the Imperial College of London, they found that a master gene called cestrin-3 worked very closely and coordinated a network of genes that actually helped to produce this expression of epilepsy. So over 400 genes are possibly involved. That's why they haven't been able to isolate one single gene.
I just keep hoping one day, right, as all of us who are on this journey with epileptic dogs certainly hope that one day they will really find a cure for this. Because we do talk about how these dogs live happy and full lives for however long that is. But I do want to say that, both of us as Epi-dog parents know it is quite a frightening experience, and you're never really 100% sure and secure because you never know if and when another seizure is going to happen. So we do hope and pray that one day that they will really narrow this down and have something more tangible for us to help these Epi-dogs. Now, Margit, is there any visible signs of a zinc deficiency one can look out for in their husky, in their Malamute, and in their dog?
Yes, well, in Huskies, I found that they have an above-average need for zinc. And so that's where the problem starts. So we have to front-load it every day. Dogs, especially Huskies, that might be suffering from zinc deficiency could show signs of chronic digestive disorders. your constant cycles of diarrhea and vomiting and not wanting to eat, that anorexic eating pattern that Huskies often have is attributed to a zinc deficiency. This also can lead to something called a leaky gut disorder, where the actual mucosal lining has been eroded, usually by high grains present in the diet or by constant antibiotic use, and this actually needs to be healed. Zinc-responsive dermatosis is very common in these dogs, and you will see these crusty raised patches around the eyes, around the nose, around the lips, even on the paw pads, and sometimes in the genital region. You can see dogs that have autoimmune disorders or immunity issues where they have immune systems that overreact or underreact. This is often a sign of zinc deficiency. Thyroid-related issues and diseases often are rooted in zinc deficiency. And then idiopathic seizures certainly are rooted in zinc deficiency because zinc is not present to be taken up with taurine.
And I just want to add, I know some of our listeners, it's much more difficult when we're trying to explain what something looks like on air via, of course, if we do it visually, like through a Facebook page or a blog. And I just want to let folks know that we've already shared one of Margit's pieces over on 5 Sibe's Siberian Husky Canine News and Reviews page, as well as over on our Purple Day for Epilepsy 2017 Facebook event that's going on, to share with you some of her information more in depth on what we're talking about today. And she does have some visuals, so if you can pop over and also follow the Divine Dog Project, and you'll be able to see a lot more in depth of what Margit's talking about. Now, just to recap for our listeners, today is Purple Day for Epilepsy, and you can go to purpleday.org and purpledayeveryday.org. And we are speaking with Margit Maxwell, trainer and canine behavior specialist for Siberian Huskies and Alaskan Malamutes, and she's in Alberta, Canada. Margit is the creator and writer of the Divine Dog Project on Facebook, where she shares her expertise in the field of snow dogs with her readers. In this episode, we're talking about the important and oftentimes overlooked correlation between zinc deficiency and seizures in Siberian Huskies. You can follow Margit Maxwell's The Divine Dog Project community page on Facebook, and there's a link to her page that's also listed on today's show on our radio station site at dogworksradio.com/the-Sibe-Vibe. And there'll also be a post coming up on my 5sibes.blogspot.com, and all of these links will be listed in the Canine Epilepsy Library on my news site, 5sibes.com. Please excuse it. It's definitely under housekeeping. We haven't done an official launch yet, but I'm trying to get things moving there to offer everyone a library. And for more information on Purple Day, please do visit purpleday.org. And as I stated earlier, the purpledayeveryday.org and our event page on Facebook. That's being co-hosted by yours truly and my fur angel Gibson here at the 5 Sibes, Kimberly Matcham and Rollo of Confessions of a Rescue Dog Blog, and Jean Ann Barnaby and Olivia of Naughty Toys for Good Dogs. Now, if folks suspect a zinc deficiency, Margit, in their snow dog, it's a good time to visit their vet for a discussion and request a blood test to specifically check the dog's zinc levels. What are your feelings about how often or so someone should maybe do that? And then I want to actually move into nutrition and food.
Well, the problem with going to your vet, and you should go to your vet to make sure, just to be able to have a blood panel run so you can see what's going on in your dog to make sure that it isn't something else. The problem with going to a vet to have the zinc levels checked is that these tests are geared to reflect the average. So your test will show normal or not normal, too high, too low. The problem is that Huskies need an above average amount of zinc. So even when your blood test shows that your Husky's levels are normal, clearly if you look at your dog and he's having the problems that we talked about, it's not normal. So your vet may not be able to understand what the problem actually is.
And I do want to mention, because I just went through this, and I haven't spoken in depth about it yet with my readers, but I just had another incident where I needed to bring our Harley in, who has just recently, she is a senior dog, and she went through her first seizure. And, of course, we went through all the tests. And zinc is not always one of the things that they do test for. So if you want to be sure, then talk to your vet and double check about asking them to look at that as well. Now, Margit, can you briefly name some top foods for Huskies that are naturally high in zinc?
Yes. I always recommend to people when they come to me that their dog is sick, and we have isolated that this is likely to be a zinc deficiency problem, that always start with diet first. People think that they just should add a zinc supplement and then everything will be fine, and this is actually not true. You have to adjust the diet. The biggest problem in the diet is having grains of wheat, corn, or soy in the diet. These grains produce a phytic acid that binds to zinc, making it further unavailable. So unless you adjust the diet, then basically it's like trying to carry water in a leaking bucket. So you have to adjust the diet, and then it's helpful to make sure that you add things in the diet that are naturally high in zinc before ever attempting to do any zinc supplementation. So most meats are quite high in zinc. The best meats for huskies, the best protein sources would be from fish and fowl with only lesser amounts of red meat in the diet. I think this reflects back to their wolf lineage, that's what they do best in. Make sure that you have about at least 30% protein in their diet, and it comes from whole fresh foods and not from animal byproduct. So chicken, duck, turkey. Then for lesser amounts of red meat, lamb, beef, bison. Then you can have pork, salmon, tuna, and freshwater mussels are a great source of zinc. Then make sure that you add liver and organ meats. About twice a week or so is lots. Eggs, you can have small amounts of dairy, especially kefir, which is lower in lactose, so your dog won't have a problem with it. Fruits can have zinc in them, apples, blackberries, strawberries. Vegetables like carrots, sweet potato, pumpkin are all really great to add. Make sure that you add kelp for huskies. That it's great for the thyroid, and make sure that you add your omega-3 essential fatty acids, which are your fish oils.
It's very interesting you mentioned that about the thyroid, because that is what my Harley has been diagnosed with. She has hypothyroidism, which is what we believe contributed to her seizure. And
absolutely.
She is a senior dog, too. So it's
right.
Curious, Ben, is this something that depletes as they get older?
Yes, actually, as the dog ages, immune systems and thyroids tend not to function well, but if we look at why, it's most likely declining levels of zinc and the body's ability to be able to use it. What's important to remember is there's actually two ways to arrive at a zinc deficiency. And one of them is through incorrect diet. The dog is generally healthy, but the diet hasn't supported their needs for the zinc. Body processes go without being completed, and over time that results in illnesses, and thyroid can be one of those cases. The other way to arrive at a dog that has a predisposition to zinc deficiency is if the mom was zinc deficient, was fed a poor diet, and then these puppies that were gestating now have a predisposition because their body processes don't work well. And sadly, that is the case where we are able to do the least to help these dogs. We end up having to just manage their problems.
Okay. Now, can you suggest some ways that someone can help prevent a husky from becoming zinc deficient? I know we talked about like the new nutrition and zinc supplements, but maybe you can kind of just give, say, even a newbie parent that maybe just discovered that their dog has a zinc deficiency, just kind of like an overall, like, let's do this kind of list.
First on the list is always take a look at the diet. Make sure that you're feeding the right breed-specific diet for these huskies. So read those labels on your kibble if that's what you're feeding. If you're going to feed a raw food diet, make sure that you understand how to feed a good, balanced nutrition that offers enough nutrition for your dog that it won't end up with a deficiency. Make sure that the food that you're feeding has adequate protein. Fat levels should be about 20%. A lot of kibbles are like at 12%, and then they don't understand why their dog is sick. Make sure that your carbohydrate levels are low. Below 30% is best. If you can get it around 20, 25, even better. The lower glycemic, the better. Never have wheat, corn, or soy in there because that will bind to zinc. And if you follow those things, and then watch to see where you may need to supplement zinc after everything is your diet's done. Then you may need to actually supplement zinc daily to be able to keep those zinc levels up and then have the body processes run as smoothly as you can.
And you have a nice little phrase that would be easy for people to actually remember this by. You call it, you say that, dog owners should not feed the dogs or start with the 4D. Can you just talk
Absolutely.
Because that also is a catchphrase that I think can help when they're trying to help their dog with a zinc deficiency.
In the manufacturing of processed kibble, many dog food and well-known large dog food manufacturers are cutting corners to basically pad their profit margins by using horrible quality meats and proteins in their food. And the 4D refers to dying, dead, diseased, and disabled animals. Right now, the way things stand, the FDA, AVCO, really have very big gray areas that allow less than healthy meats to go into those into the food that they make. So basically, it's no different than a human. We wouldn't be healthy if we ate processed foods that came from poor nutritional sources. And if you think about it, dogs that are fed kibble diets, that's all they eat. So if your dog is eating proteins that come from those terrible food sources, are going to be nutritionally deficient, and it's going to lead to illness.
All right. Now, Robert, I have a question for you. With all the sled dogs that you have, snow dogs, that's what Alaska's all about. Have you ever come across any that have had zinc deficiency, episodes? And I just wanted to get your thoughts on this, and if you had any questions for Margit.
We have never had any problems with that, and I'm always amazed at how few problems we have with our Alaskan Huskies in particular. I think it's just the very select breeding that we do as mushers. I think that for whatever reason, a lot of these ailments that are in a lot of pet dogs seem to work their ways out. We have so few veterinary visits that it just always amazes me when you guys talk about all of the problems that people have with their dogs.
That is interesting, isn't it, Margit? Because sometimes I wonder, these dogs, they're exercised on a daily basis. A lot of their foods are made. It's just a very different culture. And I know, Robert, we've talked about this even with Gibson along the way. And I think you said maybe you've come across one dog in how many years that has been epileptic up there. That's an interesting fact, isn't it, Margit?
It is, and I personally attribute it to in Alaska when people, especially if they've got large numbers of dogs that they're racing, they're not really being fed just a processed food diet. There's a lot of inclusions of zinc-rich foods like a lot of fish and a lot of cooked foods. So the dogs are being fed a better diet. The lines are more dilute, especially if they're using mixed breed dogs in their lines. And a lot of the problems that people are seeing in health problems for dogs has to do with the breeding lines that they come from. Because there is no test for zinc deficiency and there's no test for epilepsy, it really ends up being incumbent on the breeders that if they notice a problem, not to breed these dogs. But they tend not to do that. And then you have the really horrible quality hack backyard breeders who throw two dogs together and then sell the puppies. And, of course, what happens is that there are more and more of these dogs with problems, with recessive problems in their lines that are now out there, that are now being bred, and basically it snowballs.
Right. Now, we always ask people, we always try to, that's part of our awareness campaign is to really get the word out there that if someone has an epileptic dog and they're inbreeding, please don't breed a dog once it has seizures, once you find out that it is epileptic. And, we hear these horror stories. We know these breeders are out there and they're still doing it. My dogs came from a line like that, but there was no way we were going to leave them behind. But, it's please, if the dog is epileptic and has seizures, do not breed. Robert, any other questions from Margit before we wrap up today's show?
I guess just more of a thought versus a concrete question. Margit, you had mentioned about the process of providing a good diet, And, you know, a lot of people today, it's all about convenience. They want to buy a bag of kibble at the store and, you know, pour a cup or two in a bowl and be done with it. What are your suggestions for that? I know you said to buy the best kibble you can, but I think there's just so much lack of information out there. You know, we buy our dog food like we buy everything else, by packaging and, you know, that sort of stuff. And so few people read the labels on the back of our own food, much less they read it on the back of a dog food bag. What are your thoughts on just sort of living in the age of convenience?
You're very right. People don't read dog food labels. I'm amazed at how few people do. And you're right. They don't even do it for themselves, much less for their dogs. There are some dog food manufacturers who have high-quality standards, who use high-quality ingredients, whole foods in their food. But what you have to remember is, at the end of the day, these are still processed foods. So really the only thing that you can do to help your dog with his health is to reduce the amount of processed kibble that you're feeding and add back fresh whole foods into the diet. It doesn't have to be an either or, and it really doesn't take very long to do that. My dogs receive a combination of 1 cup of high-quality kibble from Origin, and the rest of the diet is raw food that I know what's going into it, and it really doesn't take very long to prepare. All you have to do is chop up some fresh vegetables daily, a little bit of fruit, add in some kefir, add in some fresh meat, and with the addition of those fresh foods, your incidence of your dog coming down with problems related to eating processed food are reduced.
If I could do a follow-up to that, Dorothy and Margit, what about cost of that? You know, obviously it's a big concern on how much people spend on food for their pets. Our rule of thumb here is we spend about $2 or $3 a day per dog, and we have 36 sled dogs, so it's a pretty expensive food bill. But what would your suggestion be on this diet that you just outlined? How much would that be in, you know, like U.S. dollars per day? Do you have any idea?
Well, actually, it varies because of the cost of fresh fruits in season or less, as opposed to the winter time, so that, you know, there's hills and valleys. I find that when the season is right, if you hit the farmers markets, you can get local fresh food and fresh produce that are organically grown. Buy it then, and then you can freeze it, and you can use it through the rest of the year. That will help reduce your cost. As far as what it would cost you, you know, per dog per day, it would even depend on what area that you live in as to what kind of access you have to these foods. So processed foods will cost you money. If you take a look at a premium bag of kibble like Origin, Origin here in Canada is over $90 a bag for a 25-pound bag. So it's expensive too. But what you look at is what you spend in adding whole foods and feeding good foods, you actually save in money because you're not going to the vet as often. So it works out in the wash.
Point there.
Right. Yeah. It's an excellent point. And, you know, I was thinking two thoughts here really quickly was that second point, because I know, with Gibson, I went to the vet more from side effects from medication, but I know many people that I've connected with who their dogs are constantly having seizures. And even though they've tried everything, even medication, they've tried to eliminate all the triggers, they do still have to be to the vet quite often. So something like this might be a clue to help them. So in the long run, you're right. If you can incorporate this in and you can eliminate some of the vet visits, that definitely is a better swap for both the dog and the pocketbook. And, you know, the second thought was, I know, Robert, up by you, coming across these fresh vegetables and fresh fruits are a lot more difficult in Alaska than it is in some other areas of the country, right?
Yeah, it is difficult. You know, we go to our stores up here, and it truly is by the season. You know, like even for, of course, people food, getting strawberries and things like that is a real treat up here, and it's something that you learn to miss real quickly. Just the access to very good fruit and vegetables that are pretty much shelf ready down in the lower 48.
Right. Right. So your next trip down, you got to come to some of the farmers markets with us so you guys can freeze some, because that's a fantastic tip from you, Margit, to do the freezing of it.
Absolutely, it helps you. It helps you extend that life of those foods, and most of these fresh vegetables and things will freeze really nicely. You can even package them into portion size, so you don't have to mess with it. You just take out the freezer bag. It has the right amount of whatever you're using, and there's less fuss with it.
Excellent. Margit, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing such important information with our listeners. And again, I just want to reiterate, Margit's fantastic about answering questions and sharing her information. So pop over to the Divine Dog Project on Facebook. Tell her that you heard the show here on the Sibe Vibe. And if you have any questions, drop her a message over there. And we'll be posting more links and information from her on both the DogWorks radio site and on 5 Sibes. And thank you again for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank
Robert?
you, Margit. See you soon. Thank you very much, Dorothy, and we will see you guys next month here on the Sibe Vibe. Until then, have a great month. Thank you and goodbye.
Bye-bye, everybody, and thanks for listening.
Did you know that Alaska Dog Works trains service dogs for those in need throughout North America? Each and every service dog that is trained through the Lead Dog Service Dog Program and Michelle Forto and her team has an individual training plan. We train for autistic, mobility, psychiatric, and PTSD for our soldiers for service work. If you know of someone that may need a service dog, please take a moment and check out Alaska Dog Works on social media and at alaskadogworks.com.
If you like our podcast, there are a few things you can do. You can take a couple of minutes and go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. You can also check out all of our DogWorks Radio sponsors and promotions in our show notes. Another thing you can do is go over to Facebook, like our Facebook page, and one last thing, please tell all of your friends by spreading the word about DogWorks Radio. Thank you so much for listening to us. We really appreciate you.
DogWorks Radio is produced by Robert Forto. Logo art by Angry Squirrel Studios. DogWorks Radio is produced in conjunction with KVRF 89.7 in Palmer, Alaska.
For dog training advice, you can contact Alaska Dogworks at 907-841-1686 or visit their website at alaskadogworks.com. If you have a show idea or would like to be a guest, please contact us by sending an email to live@dogworksradio.com.